Hi guys, so this might actually be the most spontaneous video I've ever actually made. So let's just roll with it, shall we? I'm really hoping that I'm actually in frame and in focus. I have no idea, so apologies if I'm really blurry and my head is like half chopped off or something. Like I just literally just plonked the camera in front of me. I was like, let's talk. I've got about 10 minutes before my dinner is ready. So I just had this very intense experience, and it's not something that I thought I necessarily planned on sharing here on the channel. And it's not something that I've talked to a whole lot of people about, but I just felt called to tell you about it, I guess just because it was overwhelming to me, and I came home and just talked at my altar about it, sort of to the Morrigan. And I just feel like sharing it, because why not? And maybe, yeah, I think I would say that I'm feeling called to share this. So it's just a bit of a brief kind of story, but I feel like it explains a lot about some of the certainty that I felt about being here in Edinburgh, and that kind of thing, the kind of emotional weight that it's had for me, like deciding to move here, deciding to do this master's, contemplating, you know, applying for a PhD, and all of the sort of attendant stress that will be kind of attached to that, or just not even stress, but just, you know, it's quite a big, it's a very big undertaking. Even to decide to apply for a PhD is a big undertaking in and of itself. I'm not going to be very coherent in this video, we're just going to have to run with me. So I don't know, I know that you guys probably know that I have a very soft understanding, a very soft polytheism going on. I have a very soft kind of understanding of deity. For me, they are primarily aspects of the psyche. So primarily when I feel like I'm talking or interacting with deity, with the Morrigan, with Odin, primarily I feel like what I'm accessing is a part of my own unconscious, the collective unconscious, you know, part of my psyche, some deep layer of my own being. And then of course there's sort of the aspects that I see them as embodying something kind of a larger pattern outside of just the self in the universe. And then of course, you know, I'm quite vague and very open to the possible connection between the Morrigan within me and the Morrigan kind of in the wider world. And that's where it gets kind of slippery for me, and how I view deities, and how much I'm not atheistic or totally skeptical, I suppose you could say, about that, or just purely within a sort of psychological model. But I don't feel like I'm just talking to myself. I do on some level feel like there's something bigger going on, but I have talked about that in other videos at some length. So if you do want to have a look at that, there's a Morrigan playlist, and there's probably a video or two in there where I do talk about deity. But I might have mentioned before that I felt all the way along like the Morrigan was sending me to Edinburgh. I think I mentioned that when I got offered the place in Edinburgh, I just felt really strongly that this was something that she wanted me to do. I think the day that I decided that I was just going to up and leave Dublin, but I could just decide to apply to Edinburgh, to come to Edinburgh and just do that for myself, it very much felt it was coming from that place within me that I feel is very connected to her, and it just it's a feeling that I have, that I associated with being sort of flooded with her energy, and it was just an act of pure personal power and sovereignty to just decide at that point, when I was still in a relationship, when I was utterly confused about said relationship and what way things were going to unfold for me, that I actually just said, no, you know what, I just need to stop waiting around to see what everybody else does, and just make a decision for me, and just go somewhere and do something for me. So the whole way along I felt like she was pushing me to do this. And when I got offered my my scholarship, I mean, just for my fees, that felt to me very much like a gift from her. I sort of I wasn't expecting it, because you know the way she doesn't like to make decisions easy. So I really wasn't expecting her to make that decision easy for me, because I was choosing between Edinburgh and Durham, and obviously getting that funding was just the push from her, to my mind, to say Edinburgh is where you need to go. So I came here in July, and I you know, was looking for an apartment, and I had a bit of a panic the first day. Not the first day, it was like maybe the second day we were here. Like, it was like the second apartment that I saw, and I kind of panic deposited. Like, I put a deposit down on this apartment that immediately afterwards I was like, I'm not sure about this place. It's a nice apartment, but I'm not sure about the area. I won't feel safe walking home in the dark. to this place. I can't just walk outside the door and go somewhere pleasant. You know, it was just like streets, not very nice, slightly dirty, just slightly grimy streets, no parks, nothing pleasant kind of in the neighborhood. And I was just really, really unsure. I was like, I'm going to feel trapped in that apartment. And then I had a viewing booked for the next morning. And I went to look at this apartment online, just to look at Google Maps, to try to convince myself that it wasn't going to be that nice, that I was going to be pleased with my decision, that the one that I had chosen or put the deposit down on was the best option of the ones that I had viewings for, because, you know, it had looked a bit dark and things like that. So I went onto Google Maps and I started to look at the street, and I was like, yeah, you know, the street, it doesn't look great because it's a street of tenement buildings. I was like, yeah, it doesn't look great. It looks kind of like the first place that I saw. It's probably not brilliant. It's probably not a brilliant street. And then I kind of walked up on Google Maps, walked up the street and turned left. And I looked around and I just had this moment of, holy shit, I've been here. And it was literally a year from now, not a year from when I was looking at the apartment at the time. It was in July. It was a year from now, a year from October. I came to Edinburgh for the first time with my boyfriend at the time, and just on holiday. And we were walking from our hotel, we went via a cathedral, and we were walking, just taking a nice kind of scenic route to the botanical gardens, which is kind of to the north of where we were staying. And we walked along this road and we just turned, and I was just, the whole day, it was a beautiful day. It was sunny, it was windy, the leaves were blowing around, and I was just falling in love with this city. And we kind of turned off a main road onto this cobbled street, and there was all these big Georgian buildings and these trees, so many trees. And I just kind of sighed, and I was like, this place is so beautiful. I would love to live around here. But they all seem like they're kind of privately owned houses. They didn't look like apartments. You know, the houses around here are mostly, they're not, the big Georgian houses on the north side of the city, you know, they're not split into apartments for the most part. I don't think they are, just like kind of, people just own the entire house. And some of them are kind of offices, but the street we were on, I think they were just kind of privately owned residential houses. And I was just saying this, and just as I was saying this, we reached this sort of, not a crossroads, but sort of like a junction in the road, and there were like 3 turns. We were going down to the right. And down to the right, there were more of the same kind of big Georgian houses. But I just, to the left of me, just directly in front to the left, I spotted this modern building. I was like, oh, that looks like apartments. It's like, okay, so maybe there are some apartments around here. And we got to the junction, I just stood there. I remember this so vividly. And I spotted that modern block, and I thought, well, you know, I'm not big on modern apartments. I quite like to be in an old house, you know, with the big ceilings and the big windows and the bay window if I can manage it. And I just turned around, I just looked, I just remember so vividly just saying, oh look, that looks like apartments. And I literally just turned around and pointed at the next road that kind of went off to the left. I could see this road, and I pointed at it and said, you know, maybe there's some apartments down there. And maybe it even registered with me that that street, that row of houses looked different to the rest. That it looked, you know, they didn't have the big bay windows, that they just looked a little scruffier. And I thought, you know, maybe there are apartments in that street. And I just had this vivid idea of me living on that street. Like, maybe there's an apartment. And even at the time, I was in this relationship, I was imagining myself, I saw myself on my own in this room writing a PhD. And so when I was on Google Maps, I walked up the street of the apartment that I was going to view, got to the top, to this junction, turned around, and I was like, holy shit, it's the same junction. This is the spot that I stopped. The one spot in Edinburgh where I stopped, pointed at a street and said, well, wouldn't it be amazing to live here? And that is the street the apartment was on. You could practically see the apartment, the house, from where I was standing. And that's, here it is. Here I am. I got the apartment, and I got the call that afternoon. It was literally a couple of hours later. I was so enthusiastic. I was like, basically, we came in, we saw the place. It's really close to the botanical gardens, as you know. I mean, you know, you've seen. It's an amazing area. It's the most beautiful area in Edinburgh, like hands down. And we came out, and I said to my mother, fuck the deposit. I need that apartment. That is where I need to live. I know it. As soon as I saw that on Google Maps, as soon as I saw that junction, I knew that I had seen this road. But I hadn't even at the time realized that I had actually seen the street, because from Google Maps, I saw the modern building and I knew that I had kind of pointed in the general direction of my street, but it hadn't quite, you know, it hadn't quite sunk in. But I was like, no, this is the area that I wanted to live in. When I came here to Edinburgh for the first time and dreamed of living in Edinburgh, this is the area. I need this apartment. So a couple of hours later, we were walking along Queen's Road, and I got a call on my phone, and I was not expecting to hear from them for like a day or two. We had to wait and hear from the owner, and they were like, you know, we just want to like clarify a few things. Like the owner is happy. The owner has chosen you out of the two applications that they got today, and we just want to clarify a few things. And it was just on that, standing there on this busy road called Queen's Road, on the phone going, oh my God, I got the apartment. And I basically, my normal route to college actually takes me a different direction. It doesn't take me out that way at all. It's just the quickest way to kind of get to the university. But today I met a friend for tea, for cake, and I was walking back a different way, and I was like, oh good, I get to walk back the way that, because I used to, when I was here on holidays with Keith, we walked that way, it's kind of further west. We were like walking along that kind of area a lot more, and it's not, I haven't had the opportunity to walk around there much, so I was like looking forward to that. I was like, oh, I get to walk home. And I was thinking, yeah, I get to walk through that junction, because I hadn't done that yet. I'd walked up through that junction once to get a bus in the dark, but I hadn't walked down the way that we had been walking that day when I first saw the street. And oh my God. Oh my goddess. It was I knew I would feel something when I got to that junction, but I wasn't expecting to feel what I felt. As soon as I turned off the road, and it was all just flooding back, and I could remember the day and the sunshine and the wind and the leaves, and walking along with Keith, and oh, it was just so vivid. It all just came flooding back, and when I got to that junction, I suddenly realized not only had I pointed in the right direction, but I like literally had been able to see the row of houses that my house is on. I think I could actually see, if I kind of shifted a little bit to the left, I could actually see this house from that junction. And it was just like, you know, I'm a skeptic, I'm a naturalist. Like my default is to not believe in fate, to not believe in some guiding hand. You know, that is not, like, logically speaking, that's not the way my mind works. But ever since I got here to Edinburgh, I just keep having these moments and these experiences. And actually, something I haven't even talked about that yet. Okay, I ended up going to a workshop in the Morrigan. This is a whole other video. I'll make another video on this, maybe even this evening. But I just keep having these moments that, like, basically where the inner skeptic within me just kind of has to just kind of retreats and goes, oh, oh, okay, I have no explanation. I have no explanation for this. Like, this is, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here when I say you just know those moments where, like, sure, you can explain it away, you know, there's nothing, it's nothing earth-shattering maybe to most people, but just, it's very rare in my life that I've had that experience of feeling like I've been led somewhere. Very, very, very rare, because I've gone through most of my life being largely atheistic. And so having that feeling of that pure conviction of I am in the right place at the right time. I am not only in the right city, I am in the right apartment. I am on the right street. I'm in the right apartment. Like, I'm in the right home even. Not just the city. Like, this is just, yeah. And I finally realized a few things about some of the particular challenges. Sorry, I'm sniffing a bit, I still have that cold. Some of the specific challenges in regards to relationships and feelings for other people that have been coming up for me. And I think I finally just dawned on me, I finally allowed myself to feel, and it's been coming on for a few weeks now since I got here, what way the Morrigan has been sending me, pushing me with regards to that. And it just suddenly became clear. I was like, oh, I get it, you know? Like, those people weren't for me, they were showing me something very obvious and very specific. And every time I keep almost getting there, and then at the last minute I go, oh, no, I can't, no, it's too scary, I'm not ready to let go. And then, you know, the Morrigan just goes, bit slap. No. No. Yeah. So here I am, standing on my own 2 feet, and I feel like I'm finally ready to be the person that I can be, which is really, really exciting. So that's it. I really hope this video actually recorded. I really hope it's in focus. I hope that it, you know, I haven't just wasted 15 minutes sitting here on the floor. But I will talk about that other experience that I had just a week after I got here as well, the workshop in the Morrigan, because how have I not talked to you about that yet? This is ridiculous. That's all. So many of you will probably just be like, yeah, duh, I have these kind of experiences all the time, but I don't. This is rare for me, so it's pretty big.